Hi folks, I'm Tristan from the School of Synthesis, here with Scalar version 2. In this video, we'll be looking at a few different ways of potentially using Scalar from a guitar player's perspective. So writing songs and generally producing music using almost nothing but a guitar and Scalar 2. Well, we might be bringing some additional plugins at the end just to expand our tonal palette, but all the creative heavy lifting will be done using just a guitar and Scalar 2. We won't be touching any synthesizers or keyboards or any of this nonsense. So one of the ways I like to write songs is just to mess around on the fingerboard and come up with some different shapes and different positions that I like the sound of. Doesn't matter what key I'm in, doesn't matter what chord I'm playing, just as long as I like the way it sounds, and just come up with some different variations of that to create some musical ideas. So here's the shape I stumbled on for this particular song. Okay, very simple. I'm using Native Instruments Guitar Rig plugin for tone here, and I'm just going to record some variations of that idea into Ableton Live, see if I can come up with a musical progression. But I've also added the audio version of Scalar 2 as a plugin, and I've activated audio as the detection source here. So while I'm recording into Ableton Live, I'm also going to record into Scalar 2, and it's going to try to figure out what key I'm in, and also recommend some chords to perhaps create an accompaniment part with. So let's record an idea and see how it goes. Okay, made a couple of mistakes there, I think, but I think it'll work out fine. Let's have a look through and see what scale I came up with there. Alright, so it's detected that I may have been in C major scale, F Lydian mode, or A minor. I think A minor probably sounds about right there. Okay, so there's plenty of chords immediately I can use to start building some progressions, but it's also detected the chords that I was playing in. I think it's done a pretty good job as well. Maybe a couple of misfires there, but I was using a pretty weird guitar tone. So let's have a listen. Yeah, this sounds very reminiscent of the progression I was playing in. Yep, sounds great to me. So one of the great things about Scalar is that the audio detection works just as well on the iPad app as it does on the desktop. So if you find yourself with just an acoustic guitar and an iPad, you can simply play your guitar into the iPad's microphone and work exactly the same as you would on the desktop app. So as you can see, it's captured my playing and identified all the chords just as accurately as it did on the desktop. So let's try adding some chords to the pattern area down here and try to build a progression. Start with an A minor, E suspended sounds good, back to the A minor, F major, that sounds like what I played in. Let's go back to an A minor here, and yep, an E minor, and maybe an F major, D minor 7th is good, then E 7th. Let's throw that into a new pattern slot here. And let's just loop these together so they play through sequentially. Cool, that should be pretty good. Let's just go into edit mode and change the duration of these first chords so they play for twice as long. Now I want to use this chord data to create a new MIDI track in Ableton Live. So let's just make a new MIDI track here. This is actually going to be a bass part, so let's rename this as bass. Okay, so my guitar part was an audio track, but this is a MIDI track. So I'm going to have to go back to my plugins folder and bring in the MIDI version of Scalar 2. Just as a quick side note, whenever I talk about the MIDI version of Scalar 2 in this video, I'm really talking about the instrument version of Scalar 2. In some programs like Logic, you do get access to a dedicated MIDI effect version of Scalar, which you can use to trigger any instrument plugin. In Ableton Live, you only get access to the audio version or the instrument version, which you use on MIDI tracks. So when I say MIDI version, I'm really talking about the instrument version of Scalar 2. Now I need to somehow port the information from my audio plugin of Scalar to my MIDI plugin of Scalar. This is really simple to do. Let's head to the settings, and then under session, I'm going to choose synchronize state. And let's choose entire state, press sync. It's detected another instance of Scalar running, and now as you can see, it's perfectly mirrored all the settings from my other plugin. So we can go ahead and close this audio plugin. I can actually just turn it off. And let's head over to the new MIDI plugin. Now what I might do is just turn on DAW sync mode by right-clicking on the play button, then putting on loop mode, and I'm just going to play my progression along with my guitar audio just to see how the two sound playing together. Okay, that's all sounding pretty good, aside from some fairly rough guitar playing. But let's change this to a bass part. We can do this by activating a performance. Let's choose bass performances. I'm going to change my sound to a bass part. And I'm just going to find a bass performance I like the sound of. I found one before under the common section, straight 2. And cool, we might have to shift some octaves around a little bit, so let's have a listen to it. That's all sounding okay. I'm not sure about the second chord here. E sus. I've got a feeling this should be more of an A chord. So let's find some variations. Under variations here, let's choose the tonic A. There's an A sus 2. If I turn off performances, I can hear what that chord sounds like. Let's try it with the piano first. Cool. I think that'll sound better. All right, let's go back to the bass mode here. And let's have a listen to that. All right, that's all sounding pretty good, I think. Now I've actually gone ahead and programmed a drum part to this song to give it a bit of an upbeat sort of country vibe. And this is what it sounds like. Nice, all sounding good. So I think this could now do with more of a strummed guitar part as opposed to the sort of gentle picked thing I was playing before. And Scalar makes this really easy to do. If we head back to the main view, I can activate the fretboard view mode, and under the fretboard tools, I can turn on chord charts. So chord charts are a really nice and really simple tool for guitarists to use. Take a look at the first chord here. You can see our 6 guitar strings from left to right, with the low E string on the left, the high E string on the right. The X indicates a string that shouldn't be played in this chord, so we can just leave that low E string out in this case. The circle indicates open strings, so we can just let the A string and the high E string ring out without using our left hand at all. Then it shows us which fingers we should use on what fret for the remaining strings to create the rest of the chord. So we use our first finger in the first fret on the B string, our second finger on the D string in the second fret, and our third finger also in the second fret on the G string, creating this chord. Nice A minor chord. If you'd rather try that same chord in a different voicing, we can move up to position number 2. Now it's pointing out where fret 4 is, so we use our first finger to bar the entire 5th fret, and use our 3rd and 4th fingers in the 7th fret to create the rest of the chord. Okay, so same chord, different position, different voicing. So now it's telling me how to play all the chords, and on top of that, as I play back my track, it's actually going to highlight the appropriate chord at the right time. So let's try that. Alright, some of these chords can get a bit tough to play, and I've got a feeling this part could sound even better being played by an acoustic guitar. Fortunately, I've got a really great sounding virtual acoustic guitar plugin here on a MIDI track, so all I need to do is turn off my performance mode in Scalar and drag that chord progression into my MIDI track. I can see all my chords here as a MIDI clip. And now I should just be able to play this clip into that plugin, and it should sound like an acoustic guitarist playing my chords. Let's have a listen. Great, sounds fantastic. So again, I just dragged this pattern from Scalar directly into a MIDI track, and all of these chords were taken directly from Scalar's audio detection function. So these were all detected directly from my guitar playing. Okay, next I need to come up with some kind of melody to play over the top. So I've got a new audio track here with another instance of Guitar Rig, and I'm just going to press record and record a lead part over the top. Alright, let's quickly recap some of the steps we went through here. First, I recorded a clean guitar part into a clip slot in Ableton Live, but I simultaneously recorded that into the audio plugin of Scalar too. Scalar detected a bunch of associated scales for me, and it also figured out what chords I was playing, and I simply dragged those chords into my pattern slots to create my chord progression. Then we created a MIDI track and loaded the MIDI version of Scalar 2. I synchronized the state with the old audio version of Scalar 2, giving me the same chord progression. Then I just loaded a bass performance with the bass sound, and they gave me an instant bass part. Then to jam along on top of that, strumming some guitar chords, I went into the fretboard view mode, then in the fretboard tools, turned on chord charts, showing me how to play my chords. But I didn't feel like doing that myself, so I simply dragged my chord progression into a MIDI track with a virtual guitarist plugin, giving me an instant acoustic guitar track. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please leave any questions or comments down below and stay tuned for more videos coming soon.